From the beginning of the history of the traditional classical guitar until around the 1950s, there was no distinction between the classical guitar and the flamenco guitar as we have it today. And this seems quite normal when we look at the differences in their construction, and we find that 90% of it is exactly the same. And they follow the same construction process. So why is there so much difference between one and the other in the mind of today's guitarist? And there wasn't in the classical guitarists of the past. This is worth analyzing. Let's look at those parts in the construction that vary from each other. There are basically three variations. The choice of a different fan bracing for one and the other. Many guitar makers use different fan bracing depending it is a classical or flamenco. A different shape of the fingerboard. I have a guitar here, flamenco. A different shape of the fingerboard. Again, some guitar makers, they like the fingerboard is lower in height, especially in the bottom part, and a different thickness of the bridge that is also lower in flamenco guitar. The last two have one purpose, which is to lower the action of the guitar. That is to say that the strings are closer to the frets, because this is very important for the flamenco guitarist who uses a lot slurs technique, and they don't bother much about get some bassing noises. It can appear when they play due to the very low action, and they want a guitar very, very comfortable to play. And the choice of a different fan bracing is to look for a different sound. Let's say with faster responsive sound and a lower sustain. And I'm not talking about less sound projection, but that the note is released earlier. That is to say that is projected quickly and then released quickly. The problem with playing flamenco music when the guitar has a lot of sustain, as it is easy to find nowadays with classical guitars made with a lot of sustain, is that, for example, what is called in flamenco the rasgueado, this gesture, this thing that flamenco use a lot, is lost on those guitars and doesn't sound clear. This effect is also helped by the choice of wood in the back and sides. Cypress, which is the most common wood for the flamenco guitar, helps the fast response and quick release sound. But this doesn't mean that flamenco guitars don't have enough sustain to play classical music. Of course they do, and it can also be a kind of sustain that you like, because this is a matter of personal and subjective taste. For example, I have known classical guitarists who have bought Cypress flamenco guitars because they say that playing Baroque music like Bach, it is the ideal sound and that it goes very well with the character of that music. But equally, you can play all kind of classical styles on the flamenco guitar without any problem, and you can greatly enjoy the great sound that these guitars are made by great guitar makers of history such as Santos Hernandez or Marcelo Barbero, Manuel Reyes, Miguel Rodriguez, and so many others offer. Also, very great guitar makers living and working today. In the time of my grandfather, the guitarist Pepe Cuellar is a Granada guitarist. I'm talking about the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, more or less. Classical guitarists such as Andrés Segovia, Celedonio Romero, Pepe Romero's father, Alirio Diaz, and other flamenco guitarists who enjoy both styles would get together to play music in the evening in places in Granada, in the hotel my family had, and in other places. And it didn't matter if the guitar was of flamenco or classical construction. They enjoyed both very much, and they played concert with both. Well, everyone will have their own theory. I think that in the same way that flamenco guitarists separated a lot from classical guitarists at that time, and also classical guitar music from flamenco guitar music, as there was also a kind of unhealthy competition between flamenco and classical guitarists. For example, let's remember those disputes between Segovia and Paco de Lucia. And then also from outside Spain, classical guitars started to be classified very separately from flamenco guitars in online shops, webs, international dealers, and so on. So much so that it was like totally wrong for a classical guitarist to buy a flamenco guitar to enjoy his playing. When totally wrong, we have already seen that it is not. It's rather the opposite. It is totally fine. If we think of the biggest difference and what can bother the classical guitarist when playing a flamenco guitar, which is the very low action of flamenco guitar, this can be changed by putting a higher saddle on the bridge, you know, a higher saddle on the bridge, and thus you can get a little bit higher and more comfortable action for the classical guitarist, and that avoiding those buzzing noises that we classical guitarists don't like at all when playing classical music. This variation on the bridge bone can be done by a guitar maker in just a matter of minutes and very easily. Then the thing of the plastic or, well, in this case is a wooden golpeador. On very old guitars is wooden, like this one from Santos Hernandez from 1939. It's made of maple wood. You may not like it aesthetically, but it depends. For example, in my case, I love it. I love this one in this Santos. It gives so much character and to the guitar. And I have played all my classical repertoire with this flamenco built guitar without any problem at all. And I have enjoyed so much the wonderful sound of Santos Hernandez guitars. For many, Santos Hernandez is one of the best guitar sound ever made in history. And I have also enjoyed a lot with other flamenco guitars in our collection, such as the Manuel Reyes. These particular guitars I'm talking about are made of cypress. And cypress, for me, is one of my favorite woods for backs and sides, for both classical and flamenco guitars, as it was also for the famous guitar maker José Luis Romanillos, I remember. He also commented on this. In other words, I would be very much in favor of removing that kind of a stigma that a classical guitarist cannot play with a flamenco-built guitar in concerts and recordings or for himself at home and enjoying so much the classical music. Of course, everybody can, and I would love to see the flamenco guitar in classical concerts much more often.